Good morning. We are live in the Pro Singer Collective. We just did an incredible event this past week. The workshop that we just did, a lot of you were probably there. Why am I blanking on the name of my own workshop? The VPA, oh my God, you guys, this is what happens to me on Monday morning. You guys were in the workshop. You know what we did. We were live every day for an hour in the Vocal Powerhouse Accelerator workshop. You would think I would remember the name of the workshop. Good gracious. And there was a lot of talk when we were in the workshop, a lot of comments and people relating to the idea of imposter syndrome and having talent and having an incredible voice and yet still feeling like an imposter when you step on stages, when you step in auditions, when you step in recording studios, and that insecurity that creates. So I wanted to go live today to talk about that. And I mean, first of all, though, those of you who came to the workshop, hit me in the chat, hit me in the comments. Do you feel like you had some tools now to really kind of start to deal with that imposter syndrome, that insecurity? I hope you do. I hope the technique tools that we gave you, I hope that the mindset tools that I gave you are starting to create a new foundation for claiming and owning your skill set, your mindset, so that when you are in these situations that count on stages, in auditions, you have a better sense of confidence, a better sense of security. But yeah, imposter syndrome came up a bunch when we were in the workshop. And so I'm curious, of those of you who are watching live, or if you're watching also in the replay of this live, do you feel like that's something that has gotten to you in the past? Feeling like you are in that place of, I know I'm talented, but do I really belong here? Am I definitely good enough? Yes, I see Susan in the chat saying, yes, definitely. I totally relate to that. And it's not a small thing, guys. So imposter syndrome is actually a form of self-doubt. And I think many of us who are artists, who are creatives in whatever iteration that is, if you're a musician, if you're an actor, if you're a visual artist, a dancer, those of us who are putting our heart and soul out there and our energy and our essence out there, it's really hard to stand behind what you do when there can be so much feeling that you will be judged if you do it, that you will be judged as not good enough, that people will be like, who does she think she is up on that stage? And so that's where that imposter syndrome comes from. It's just a form of self-doubt. And why self-doubt can be so dangerous for singers. And if you came to the workshop last week, you know that self-doubt takes you out of the present moment. And it makes you feel inadequate to go after your goals and your dreams. And so what happens is you don't take actions on what you want. You continue to play small. You see an audition or an opportunity and you say, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Or next time, right? Like, how many of you do this? How many of you do this? You're forever like getting ready to be ready, getting ready to get ready, to get ready, to get ready. And then before you know it, a whole audition season has passed if you're an opera singer, or all those, opportunities that you made if you were networking and you're a recording artist and you could have reached out to this producer, or you could have reached out to this venue. And now it's been 5 months, 6 months. And now those connections don't even remember who you were, because that imposter syndrome of not feeling good enough, of not feeling ever ready enough, stopped you from taking the action that you need to take. And I see it happen all the time in training. So we just did this incredible workshop, which was free. And there are so many singers in that workshop who messaged me, and it's like, that fear of, I want to continue to work with you guys. I want to be able to invest in myself and my training, but I just don't know if it'll work out, like if I'm really good enough. And so that fear of imposter shows up if I'm really good enough, and prevents somebody from even investing in themselves or doing the hard thing that they may need to do to get a new credit card, to do a personal loan, to ask friends and family to help invest in them, to do the hard things that it would take to put together that investment on the thing that is going to give them the skill set and the mindset so that they can get past the imposter syndrome. So it even stops them on getting the help that they need to move to that next level so that they don't feel like imposters. It's very insidious. It's a tricky foe. And so when we're not taking the actions that we want, that we could, and we continue to play small, how many of you saw an audition or you see an opportunity and you stop yourself? Like, how many of you do this? Put it in the chat. Tell me in the comments. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been like, oh, I'll reach out to that person who said, yeah, email me about the gig. I'll reach out to them in a couple of months. Like, it's the I'm not ready. It's the I'm not good enough yet. It's the, could I really, are they really going to pick me? It's never good. It's never good enough. It's never ready enough. And all of that not enough stuff, right? It sits there and you do this over and over again. And for those of you who do take action, in the moment of that opportunity, in the moment of that audition, in the moment of reaching out, in the moment of that show or that recording session, the doubt, if you have that imposter syndrome, it sabotages your body from its best performance. And especially if you guys showed up for our workshop this last week, you know how that works, because the body can't do what the brain is sabotaging. So if the brain is going, so you're like, let's say you're about to go in an audition. And for those of you who audition for opera singers, Broadway singers, you know what that 10 to 20 minutes before the audition is like, where you're sitting there in the waiting room with 35 other singers who are also waiting to audition for the same thing. And you can hear what's going on in the audition room behind the door. And you're listening to that person and you're like, oh my God, they're so much better than me. Or, oh my God, they sang that song and they killed it and I should sing something else. Or, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? And it makes you question and second guess. And so now you go into that audition and now you're in the imposter syndrome. You're in the doubt. Like, who am I to be at this play? Who am I to be at this audition? They're never going to choose me. All that stinking thinking. And that causes your body to react. So you're either going to push and force because you want to prove, or you're going to back away because you're scared and you don't want to suck or crack or whatever. But both of those things, as you know, especially if you attended the workshop and got tools on this past week, these are the things, the ways in which the imposter syndrome then sabotages your body from being able to make the sound that you otherwise know you can make and being able to make that impact in that audition to get you into the room, to get you the offer or the gig or the role or whatever it is. Because we think that once we achieve the thing, once we get offered the role, once we, whatever it is that makes us feel confident, right? We think that that external thing is then going to make us feel like less of an imposter. But if we're waiting for the external thing to feel like less of an imposter, we will never show up to the opportunity of that thing in the energy of the skill set and the mindset that we need to land that thing, because we're waiting for the external validation. However, if we learn a new way, if you learn a new way of relating to yourself, both on stage and off, that then changes how you act on your own behalf, changes how you manage your skill set and your energy. So you're not sabotaging those things when you go into those opportunities. Now, you're not going to be in imposter syndrome before you've even started. And then you're not going to just keep recreating the feedback loop of that imposter syndrome. Yeah. So what is the antidote to this? How do we get past imposter syndrome? And like, are you guys picking up what I'm putting down here? Hit me in the chat. Are you relating to this? Either the imposter syndrome makes you feel never ready, so you don't take opportunities and you put them off, or you take the actions, but you don't get the results that you want because in the moment of that action, you feel like an imposter and it makes you fearful and not worried enough and all in your head. Tell me. I'm checking. I'm looking at the chat here. Yeah, absolutely. I see you guys. Melanie is like, absolutely. Hi, Jessica. Guilty. Yeah. Jess is about to start our program. And Jess, I'm going to be emailing you today to get the ball rolling on everything. She's one of the newest enrollees into our program. So Jessica, we're going to work on this hardcore. But I feel you, all of you who are relating to this. Absolutely. I mean, Kathy is like, yes, Ken, yes, Susan, definitely. But I want you guys to know that there is an antidote for this. So number one, it's learning a new way of relating to yourself both on stage and off. And one of the first things that's really important in order to do that is gaining awareness around your self-talk. So, and yes, Susan, it does boil down to self-trust, but we don't often trust the voice inside our head because we're not listening to the right voice. There's two voices inside your head. There's the voice of the inner critic, and then there's the voice of your awareness. The voice of your awareness is your witness. It's your consciousness. It's your soul. It goes by many names. It's that little voice within who notices the thoughts, who notices the emotions. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You have thoughts. You have emotions, but you are not them. You are the consciousness, the energy, the witness, whatever you want to call it, the soul within that notices those things. And so learning a new way of relating to yourself in singing, on stage and off, first starts with gaining awareness around this self-talk. How are you talking to yourself? Are you vicious to yourself? I mean, start to notice this stuff. Most of us, the things that we say to ourselves in our head are so much worse than anything we would ever say to any other person in our lives. We're so much worse to ourselves. We would say stuff to ourselves that we would never say to somebody else, to one of our friends, or to somebody else that we cared about. And yet, it's okay for us to talk to ourselves that way. So starting to notice, how do you talk to yourself? Do you spend most of your time catastrophizing, going to the worst possible outcome? Do you ever celebrate your little wins? What is the ratio of criticism to gratitude? What is the ratio of criticism to celebrating, right? So these are all the things that help start to shift imposter syndrome. And one of them also is, once we start to notice and gain awareness around the inner critic, is also learning how to silence the inner critic. And we do a ton of work on this in the intensive training program. It's often can be, it's not like all of a sudden you like snap your fingers and you can get rid of patterns of self-doubt and imposter syndrome that have been conditioned for years, right? But it can be done. So one of the things that we do to silence the inner critic, and I will invite you to do this, it's more powerful when you've had a lot of expert one-on-one mindset training and you're in the context of the group and you've been seeing these patterns play out in real time because you're doing thought exercises and all these things. But in the absence of that, one of the things that you can do to silence your inner critic is to laugh at it. To laugh at it. So you notice, let's say that you're sitting in an audition and your inner critic is railing on you in your head. Oh my God, listen to that girl who's going before you. She's freaking amazing. You are going to sound like shit going after her. Why are you here? You're wearing the wrong dress. Oh my God, you look fat. What about the audition song? You said you were going to do this as your opening song, but now I don't think it's good enough because it doesn't show off what I need to show off. But if I sing the other song, I'm really worried that I'm going to crap on the high note because I don't really trust my high note. Blah, blah, blah. That's like the wah, 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 right? So you're sitting there and you notice all of that because you've gotten better at gaining awareness when your inner critic is talking to you. So you notice it and you get to pause. You get to laugh at it and you get to be like, oh my God, inner critic. And we have our singers name their inner critic. If you were in the workshop and you were in the workshop yesterday when I was interviewing Amy DeLuca, she named her inner critic Deborah, because that was like the name of a mean girl, I think, in her when she was growing up or something. So you're sitting in the audition and Deborah's going crazy in your head and you get to be like, oh my God, Deborah, really? Ha 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 ha, Deborah. I see what you're doing. You're no longer welcome here, Deborah. Ha ha ha. Like, you're so predictable, Deborah. You have been railing on me and pooping on me for whatever, if you're me, 47 years. And you're so predictable. Oh my gosh. Do you have anything original to say, Deborah? Ha 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 ha. Like, start to talk back. Start to laugh back. Start to belittle and minimize the inner critic, because we need to right size that voice in your head. That voice in your head is usually a voice of your past. It's usually one of your parents' voices in your head. It could be, the voice of like your old classmates or people who made fun of you. You know what I mean? It's never you. It's never your voice. And so in doing that, in laughing at it, in naming it, What we do is we create some separation from it. You are not that voice in your head. You didn't choose that. That voice was given to you by your family of origin, perhaps your religion, certain social circles, your parents, whatever. You get to choose to minimize that by starting to create some distance from it. So when all of a sudden we start responding to it, laughing at it, then what happens is we create that separation whereby we are not it. We are the awareness within that's noticed it, that's responding to it, and that's sending it on its way. Okay. So first things first, notice it. Yeah. Note a Karen. I see, I'm just looking at the chat. Yeah, Susan is saying, you can call your inner critic Karen. Totally. But yeah, and I'm seeing what Ken is writing in the trust. How do I keep my emotions under control when singing and still show them in my singing? Because you are not your emotions. And it's like getting that at a cellular level, Ken. You guys have feelings, you have thoughts, but you are not them. And it's when we have just a long standing conditioned habit of what's the word, codependent. It's not even codependence. It's like over identifying with the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions, that we can't separate that an emotion is something we have. It's not who we are. A feeling is something that rolls through. Like I always say, feelings are not facts. They are like the weather. They come in and they roll out, right? So understanding, first of all, that there is a separation from that, then you don't have to, quote, keep your emotions under control. When you have the experience of doing that, and this is a huge reason why in the intensive program, there's so much focus on the meditations and mindset work, because it is in those meditations that you do them daily and you learn how to gently and compassionately detach from the thoughts and the feelings, so that you don't have that over identification. And so they don't rule you. They don't take over you. And so you don't have to control them, because there's no risk of them getting out of whack. You know what I'm saying? So being able to have that gentle separation is how you won't be overrun. And having that experience of playing with those emotions in the context of when you're not singing. Somebody asked a question in the workshop the other day about, like, if I'm really emotional about a song I'm singing and I cry, but then I can't finish the song because I'm crying, right? Because there is an over identification with that emotion. So you need to let yourself feel it and it move through. Like I said, feelings are like the weather. They just move through. But if we hold on to it, it's like holding that rain cloud above us that it can't then move through when we're over identifying and over attaching. So that experience of feeling that emotion, I said to her, cry through it. I don't know, Ken, if you were in the workshop on that day when we were talking about that, but it's that allow for it, let it move through. We're not over attaching to it. It's something that you have. It is not who you are. It moves. Feel it, let it happen, and then give yourself some grace, experience it, keep going, and let it happen as much as you want. I said to her, cry as much as you want in practice. Learn how to create that detachment, create that little callus, because you felt it, you've let it move through. It is no longer attaching to you. Then you don't have to worry about controlling the tears. They're not going to affect you in the same way. You will still be understanding and connected to what you're saying, but it's not going to be running you. Yeah. So it's a good question. Let me just check here and because we're live on a couple platforms now. Just making sure there wasn't any other question that I missed. So yeah, I think everybody has an inner critic. Everybody has, there's the voice of your awareness, and then there's the voice of the inner critic, which is most often the voice of the fear. It's the voice of the doubt, and it's the thing that makes you feel like an imposter. And so to get out of that imposter syndrome, we learn a new way to relate to yourself, both on stage and off, gain awareness around that self-talk, learn how to silence the inner critic. And like I said earlier, sometimes it's not like you can all of a sudden necessarily just like snap your fingers and get rid of those patterns of self-talk, self-doubt, imposter syndrome that have likely been conditioned for years. And this is why I work with singers the way I do, because it can be really hard to fix these things on your own and to see these things on your own. It's like most of the time when it comes to our to our own BS inside our heads. A lot of us are just too close to our own junk to see it because we're just so used to being in it. And we're so used to the habits of how we talk to ourselves, how we feel. We don't even realize that we're relating to ourselves this way. And it can be really hard to see these things. And so having somebody outside of you, an expert coach, a community to be able to mirror these things back to you gently and compassionately, and most importantly, regularly, because old habits die hard, as you guys know, is the fastest way to change. I'm not saying that you can't make some headway on some of this stuff on your own. I'd be a total hypocrite if I told you that, because that's basically what I did. But it took me 10 plus years and walking into every pothole and spending time and energy and money and wasting time and energy and money on things that didn't work before I found what did. And so if you're sick and tired of winging it and tired of trying to figure it out on your own, and you want those tools and those techniques that enable and create real change in your voice and the outcomes that you want in your auditions and your performances and your recordings, that really can annihilate the imposter syndrome, the self-doubt, all these habits that are preventing you from not just consistently accessing the full power and potential of your voice to stand out from the competition, but that are also preventing you from acting on your own behalf in ways that are costing you time and money and energy, so that you're just standing there stagnating, settling, instead of living that real successful career, if that's what you want to do professionally, and opportunities with your voice. If you're doing this as a what I call like a serious recreational avocational singer, still it can be just as frustrating. So if you're relating to this, if you came to the workshop first of all and you are not on my calendar for a discovery call, what are you doing? Get on my calendar for a discovery call, okay? It can be scary, guys. I get it, to commit to big change, And if you didn't come to the workshop, life happened or whatever, but you want guidance and you're tired of trying to do this all on your own, I'm going to put the link in the chat. Still get on my calendar. Because guys, this is what gets me the most, is that most people, they talk a big game about change, but they never take the actions that will get them there. Don't be one of them. Don't be one of them. Get on my calendar. Let's have a real conversation about what is going on in your singing, what needs to happen to fix it, and have a real conversation to make sure that if you want our help to do that, that the program is a fit for you. Okay, so I'm going to put the link in the chat here. If you're watching on YouTube, it's in the video description, so you can already see it there. If you're watching on Facebook, here is the link in the chat, and I'm going to put it right here. Book a discovery call. Do it. You guys, I love talking to singers. Like, even if you don't end up coming to work with us in the program, there are nuggets and there are things and there are ways in which we can help you. If the investment is the only thing standing in your way, there are ways to get resourceful. And I have walked singers through lots of different options to do that. There's always a way for the committed. If you have the investment, or you could make the investment, but you're a little scared, I get it. I really do. So get on a call with me. Let's talk it out. Let me help give you the information that you need so that you can make the best possible decision for yourself. And it's not made out of fear or unworthiness, self-doubt, like all the stuff we were talking about today. All right, guys, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Yes, go see what Jessica just put in the Facebook comments. Book the call. You won't regret it. Arden will help you figure it out. I will, guys, because I know what it's like to be in your shoes. I know what it's like to be like, I'm doing everything that I know how to do, and I'm just not getting where I want to go. Or I know what I have to do, but I'm really scared of making the money investment or making the time investment or figuring it out with my boss or dealing with time zone things. Like if you're somebody, we have singers who are in Australia, who are in Iceland, who are in Hong Kong. They could have let that be the thing that kept them scared and stuck. But I'm here for you guys to help you understand the best possible way that it could work for you, so that you're making a decision from all of the data rather than from your fear. So get on my calendar. If you especially were in the workshop, do it. And I will see you guys actually not next week, because actually I'm on vacation next week with my daughter for July 4th week. So I will see you in a few weeks. But enjoy, and book that call. Bye, guys.